Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, and they are on audio as well. And Raised by These Wolves Volume 3 will be coming out in a couple weeks. I have Debbie Carroll back on the podcast. She was last on Season 5, episodes 167. 180 and 236. She's going to share with us the Frost Appeal Update, how to protect your rights with ORPC attorneys, CPS, and the courts. As reported in the spring of 2025 episodes, Richard Frost's children were abducted by their mother and their aunt and placed with the two women and their sex offender partners. Debbie knows definitively that the micro sex trafficking cell that they created perpetrated sexual violation against four of the five children. A lot has happened since the trial of the mother's boyfriend. Debbie Carroll will be reporting on the outcome of that trial, the status of Mr. Frost, the innocent father, the defendants, the victims, and the state of the appeal. Additionally, Debbie Carroll will be using the knowledge she has gained about this ordeal and to pass critical information along to parents who are currently or may someday be placed in a similar battle against divorce and this child protection regime. I welcome you back, Debbie. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's fall,
Yeah.
unbelievable. The time is flying by. And it's just great to see you again, Marianne.
Oh, it's nice to see you too.
The reason I asked to be on the show was because the case that we're working on and have been working on for a little over a year. And when I say we, I mean my nonprofit and two other of our board members have devoted a lot of time doing research, going to court, looking up court records, calling the district attorney's office, calling the jails, calling the courts, calling for records. We kind of come in as advocates for the parent or parents, and try to let them know we're watching them. That is the most important thing that people can do. If people say, how can you help? And you can't do anything else, give our nonprofit some money. But if you really want to make a difference, also go to court or help out the parent. Like the parents need money. They need, they need Uber rides. There's all kinds of things that people can do if they want to hook up and try and do something to help. So what my philosophy is with my nonprofit is to stay with a case until we win.
Right.
Pretty much that's the plan. And we've got a pretty good track record. We did run into an attorney that had worked for us for 5 cases. His name is Byron Miller. I would say that he ended up throwing this case to the wolves, exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
What Mr. Miller did was we told him that Mr. Frost never was adjudicated that he knew of. And Mr. Miller slammed the table and said, "You had to be adjudicated. You had to sign something." And then as time went on, it became apparent that Mr. Frost never did sign it, did not agree to anything, did not agree to a deferred adjudication, never consented, was not informed that he had even been adjudicated until 4 months before the termination when we hired Mr. Miller. And I knew that if Mr. Miller brought this up the very first time he appeared in court, that he would have been able to at least stop the termination and have an evidentiary hearing of what happened. He failed to do that. And in fact, he got the ORPC attorney to send him, the very first time he contacted him, how to request records for the appeal, right?
Mm-hmm.
This attorney that we've hired to do the termination hearing for Mr. Frost is on his first contact with the ORPC attorney he's replacing, received in an email how to file for the records for an appeal. And that is the exact same document. So
Oh,
we were behind the eight ball and we almost lost the chance to have an appeal.
yeah.
And we had to get, so the first thing is the first bit of advice for people is do not trust any of the attorneys. Don't trust any of them. You need outside pairs of eyes watching them and letting them know they're being watched.
Hmm.
And it's making a difference. I don't know, I always say that, you can win the battle, but all that matters is whether or not you win the final outcome, which is to
Hmm.
get your children back. Um, so the biggest problem with the Frost case is the blackout of information, and including that Mr. Frost was adjudicated. Uh, he had been kept by his attorney for various different scenarios, never appeared in court other than at the shelter hearing.
Oh,
So the shelter hearing took place on July 6th, 2022. His two sons were taken away from him, and he was arrested 6 days earlier on June 30th, 2022. And that's when all hell broke loose.
mm,
Um, I covered in my first version of the story how the mother, Isla Frost, to whom he is still married.
mm,
It makes people crazy. Like, how could he still be married? Well, CPS shut down the divorce, and then she went to jail, and he has no access, and he's trying to come up with a lawyer who'll take this case and get the money together to divorce her. She wants to be divorced. He wants to be divorced, but because
oh,
of the all the criminal stuff that's happened, now, Mr. Frost has no history of any criminal background whatsoever, never did anything but love his children and the best job he could to make sure that they were receiving what they needed. His oldest three children of four,
mhm,
it was where they were really healthy. They had no issues. The youngest one, so um, the youngest one had some health issues that he was addressing them. One of them was his teeth. I don't know what happened with his teeth, but the doctors had said they were going to wait until his adult teeth were coming in. So he also was very small. As it turns out, he has a genetic condition that he could be small as a child. Mr. Frost said he was small as a child,
mhm,
but he seems to be, we think he's growing now. So the blackout contains the fact that Mr. Frost did not attend his own hearings until after the adjudication 9 months later.
mhm.
And then he was invited to come in to learn about the treatment plan. Well, that's all he knew about was the treatment plan. His attorney never said, I went into court one day and in an 11-minute hearing, I sold you down the river.
Oh,
And what the judge said that morning was, we pried the baby out of her hands, meaning I think the guardian ad litem's hands.
mhm,
Now the baby is in the state's custody for sure. Like, we got them. We
oh,
have them. They're ours. We're going to keep them. We're going to terminate his rights. It's dead end for him from here. He's never done anything against his children. He's never been allowed to speak to them since the day the boys were removed.
mhm,
All four children, complete total blackout. And what was happening during that time is there were multiple, what happened during the blackout, while Mr. Frost had not seen his children and was begging for visitation with them, he was begging for visitation, and then he found out that the 8-year-old boy had been violated and tortured and starved and given drugs and had broken bones that were never set, and had he later found out that he had also been having his stomach stepped on, stomped on, that he was hung upside down in the shower, that he uh, was they violated his face. I mean,
mhm,
what it's incredible
mhm,
what
mhm.
was going on. Meanwhile, the dad's begging to see his kids. His ORPC attorney is keeping him out of the hearings to make him look bad. This was a plot from the very beginning.
Oh,
It was a plot. So let's look at the diagram. So this is a list of the Frost side of the family and the sister, Aunt Sharon Dobie's side of the family.
mm,
Um, and The reason Aunt Sharon Dobie is in here is because she was the mastermind of how to steal the children away from the dead.
Oh,
For Isla Frost and her um, live-in partner, James Walter, he was convicted in March of 2025 of 11 counts of felony assaults on the children.
terrible, just terrible.
He was sentenced to 30 years. And we finally found out that they put him into prison. They were moving him around from county jail to county jail for this whole summer because they were fearful that he would be killed.
Yeah.
And if he's killed in state care, that's a problem.
Hmm.
So he's finally in jail. But so it says here that Isla Frost is now a registered sex offender. She's incarcerated, and her husband is Richard Frost, who is not a registered sex offender and has never been incarcerated except for those 13 days. They
Hmm.
locked him up. Um, the live-in partner is James Walter. He's a convicted sex offender. And he had two trials. The first trial was for the latest offense. So in 2022, they just the school, after 3 months of the children, the two boys and the other sister, were living with the mother and James Walter.
Hmm.
The older sister was living with Aunt Sharon Dobie. She has a minor son, or he's around the same age as the youngest Frost boy that was violated. And she has a live-in partner who's a sex offender. They had the girl down here, H. She was living with James and Isla. And as it turns out, it says right on here what he was convicted of.
Hmm.
For a year and a half, they were continually Isla Frost, James Walter, and the sister, Eliana Frost. She was adopted by Richard Frost at birth. Uh, her, her probation has been revoked since I typed this up a few months ago. And she's the oldest of
Huh.
Isla's children. But Richard Frost raised her until
Hmm.
she was 16, when the mom decided she wanted to go have a more fun life and
Hmm.
took this girl with her. She took Eliana with her. Eliana is both a victim and a perpetrator. So these are the four people who sexually assaulted. Well, the three people who assaulted one, two, three, and Bradley. Um, Isla Frost, James Walter, Eliana Frost, and Bradley McGinnis, who was Aunt Sharon Dobie's live-in partner.
Hmm.
And the four of them created a microcell of trafficking the kids, and they were arrested. Bradley and James were arrested at a hotel on August 1st, 2020. So while the dad still had custody during COVID, they were staying with Isla Frost, being violated, being assaulted, talking about the two girls.
Hmm.
Well, three girls. Eliana, the oldest, not biological. Then we have H, the oldest daughter of Richard and Isla. And we have Y, the second daughter of Richard and Isla. She was taken on Thanksgiving of 2020
Hmm.
from the mother and James's residence. James was brandishing a gun. Dad, Richard Frost, went over to get his daughter home. They were refusing to bring her home for the holiday. She went over, they took her for the holiday, but then he wanted her back and they weren't bringing her back. And he wanted both girls back, but the older one, the H, she was really traumatized because for a year and a half she had been sustaining sexual contact with her mother's boyfriend, and her sister, and probably Brad McGinnis, but they blindfolded her. They put a pillow over her head. She did not know who was doing what to her.
Oh.
So to get on with the stuff that I already reported on your show, I just want to say that the blackout also included the criminal cases against Isla Frost, um, Mr. Frost knew that he didn't know, not he was never told when her trial dates were.
Mm-hmm.
He never attended any of them until the very end when we got involved. But there were cases against James Walter. In fact, there were two trials, as I said. In the first trial, he was acquitted by a jury because the jury was not getting the whole story. And they had enough people involved in these assaults to cast doubt on exactly what James Walter did.
Mm-hmm.
And so the jury was able to acquit him on reasonable doubt. There were a lot of aspersions or allegations that the father had the children back and forth during COVID, and who hurt the children. And the other reason that James Walter was acquitted was that the two victims, the older son of Richard Frost, and Y, and I don't know where H stood on the whole thing, but these two children were unable to testify against him because they fell apart on the witness stand.
Oh. Hmm.
So Mr. Frost knew nothing about these trials. They were, we believe that they were sequestered from him because they wanted to get convictions, and they didn't want Mr. Frost to be in there screaming at the judges in his CPS case, what the hell happened to my children when you stole them from me,
Mm-hmm.
or to the criminal case, going into the criminal case and standing up as a dad would do
Mm-hmm.
against somebody who had done what this man had done to his kids. We did not know about Bradley McGinnis's criminal record until we started looking at it, and Mr. Frost knew nothing about that either. So the blackout of information still is in operation. And one of the most serious things that happened was that they never assigned Richard status as a victim. He was the subject of investigations until actually the second trial in March, when he did go to court, and the public defender, it was both the public and the defender and the district attorney would bring up Richard's name.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to pull the same thing that they had pulled in the first trial where James Walter was acquitted, which was to, create doubt in the mind of the jurors. However, this is the most bizarre twist of anything that I've ever heard in a courtroom. The public defender was trying to discredit Eliana, what she was saying, because she was now testifying against James Walter
Mm-hmm.
in the March 28th trial, 25th trial, March 25, it was March 28th, 2025, that he was convicted. The public defender told the court that Richard Frost was not a suspect. The first time that Richard Frost heard he was no longer a suspect was in the courtroom when the public defender told the judge 3 times that the district attorney had made a plea deal with Eliana to speak negatively about Richard Frost in order to get a lighter sentence in her criminal case. So what's really strange about that,
Mm-hmm.
really strange, is that Eliana made the lightest allegations against Richard and said that when they were snuggling, which they did as children,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the H here, whose identity we're protecting because she's not a criminal, although she is very, very disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't understand. This child at 19 is now in housing. She was in housing. They opened a case after she aged out at 18. They opened a case to keep her in the foster care system,
Oh,
right?
right.
Well, at the time that I wrote this, which was 8 months ago, or right before it was February, and this is now November. They were trying to find a place so she could have her own vehicle. They bought a car for her. She's been brainwashed. I
Hmm.
think I think one of the things we know is that kids who do survive CPS sometimes become caseworkers themselves. They
Oh,
have to have the right mentality. They have to be, so the psychological profile is, how it, you know that we got you out of the situation and you know that we helped you so you can help another child. And we're going to pay for you to go to college. Isn't that a lovely thing?
yes, on taxpayers'
So we're now
expense.
into not only multi generations,
Hmm.
multi generational class warfare against the foster children. We now have multi generational former foster children becoming caseworkers.
Oh,
And just to mention that in that memorandum of procedures, they will remove a former foster parent's child from them and make it more difficult for them to get the child back just because they were in foster care as children. They are profiling foster kids to remove their children.
hmm.
So that's horrendous.
Yes.
That's like there's no probable cause, there's nothing. So um we have the four biological children. Um the girl who's now 19, the boy who's now 16, the girl who's now 13, and the youngest who's now 12. Because it's been going on so long. He's 11 now. It's been
Oh,
going on so long, right?
mm,
Since when they were taken. And for the girls, the Y and the H and Eliana, this started as early as they could get to them when the mother left the dad around 2017. She didn't file for divorce until 2019. So the number one, like another key uh, piece of advice um, to people who get trapped into this uh, is they want to have multiple cases against people at the same time, and they want to conflate the two, and they're not supposed to be able the civil case, which is the juvenile court, the CPS case, is not supposed to be able to profile the parent based on the criminal charges. Um, I guess if there's a conviction, that's different.
mhm.
But a conviction by the criminal court is a different thing than a jury trial that people can get in phase one of a juvenile case. In phase one of a juvenile case, before you are adjudicated, which means that you have agreed or been found to have harmed your child. You have agreed in a no fault admission. You can agree in a fault admission, which is what Isla Frost did in January of 2023. She knew she was in trouble.
Mm.
And because of their policy, which is also in the memorandum of procedures, to return a child to a parent with a history of sexual abuse if the perpetrator is not in denial. So by admitting to harming her children, she voluntarily terminated her rights, but she still is being talked well about by the judge in the termination hearing that Mrs. Frost understands the children's needs. Mrs. Frost listens to the children. Well, my question is when, since her rights were terminated, how much access does she have? She was in jail for 1 year. She
Wow.
was let out on probation, and she had the most massive fail of probation ever in El Paso County after 1 month. She reoffended, she visited James Walter, she reoffended seeing minor children, she reoffended with other men. And so that brings me back now to the other men part. So I've talked about why, and then the youngest son, S, was 8 years old in 2022 when he became the brunt
Mm.
of the assaults.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, this one here, why? was living with her mother and never saw her father again since November of 2020. So it was a plan by this lady. This lady became a caseworker in El Paso County Department of Human Services during this case while living with the sex offender and her son, who was also the same age as this one, 8 years old in
Oh.
2022. And so when it was time to take the children away from the dad, they said they conducted a thorough background check on everybody. Well, the caseworker maybe didn't tell them. They knew that this girl, who had been living for a year and a half, being violated by her mother's sister and mother's boyfriend, and possibly this one, because this one, Brad McGinnis, was caught with James Walter in August of 2020 at a hotel, violating children who had a position of trust toward them.
Mm.
And what we just found out about, the most recent thing, is that Bradley McGinnis is back in jail. I got this right here. Where? I got it right here. You can't see it because of my background. Maybe. Anyway, it is the most recent publication because we went back and got an updated version of the Bradley McGinnis District of Arapahoe County, Colorado District Court, that he pled guilty in 2023, or he was found guilty of sexual exploitation of a child with 20 plus videos.
Ugh.
So not only were these people hurting the children, they were live streaming them.
Oh, these people are disgusting.
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about how many cases have occurred as a result of CPS taking Richard's children from him and never letting him see them. So they would not tell him what happened. Okay?
Mm.
For the 3 months before that, from June 30th to September 20th, he did not see his children. And the older two, well, let me point here with my cursor because I know it's confusing. Eliana had left.
Mhm.
She was gone. H was living with this one and this one, but she was also taken out of that home in September of 2022 when the school reported the injuries to the little boy.
Mm.
And at that time, these three were living with mom, the three youngest Frost children.
Mhm.
And the older two were forced to witness what they were doing to the little boy. But as it came out a year after that, this child right here, who I call the lost child,
Mhm.
all of the videos, testified in court that James Walter had done the same thing to her.
Mm.
They were forced to watch, I think, under threat of this could happen to you.
Mhm.
But these kids, brother, they didn't tell anybody. They didn't run away and report anything.
Mhm.
They were scared. That's my theory.
Yeah.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. This one, we believe, has never Control Z. I love Control Z. You know Control Z.
No.
Watch, watch, watch what I do. I accidentally get rid of it. I press Control Z.
It's back.
It's right back. Control Z. I just changed your life, girl.
Thank you.
It's the best thing I ever found on a computer. So these two kids were forced to witness what they were doing to the little one. And in the 90 days that they had those 3 kids. Remember, the 2 girls were living with James and Isla. These 2, all 3 girls. Okay. All 3 girls were living with James and Isla at the same time
Mm.
for some period of time. But I got to tell you, the latest information, this is almost like this is worse. I mean, this is like the sickest soap opera ever.
Yeah.
This young lady, 24 years old, has a baby. She's in jail. Guess who got the baby? Get the baby when both parents are in jail.
Oh,
And
foster care.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. There you go.
And the cycle continues.
Well, the cycle is continuing until this story gets out. I want the story everywhere. I want the story everywhere.
Mhm.
It's so bad. It's so bad. But I was just about to tell you that the cases that we know of as a result of this horrendous crime, these horrendous crimes,
Mhm.
were 2 trials. 2 trials. One where he was acquitted and one where he was convicted for 30 years.
Finally.
Bradley McGinnis had been involved. We just found out in this latest document that I have that you can't see because it just pops up. We just found out that he had crimes. We already knew about August 1st, 2020. We didn't know about March 1st, 2020. So this is COVID time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kids are staying with the mom for longer periods of time. We don't know if Bradley McGinnis and James Walter, when they were arrested in August 2020, had Richard's girls with them. But there was a person in the position of trust.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either Richard's child Richard's children, or Sharon Dobie's son. If Bradley McGinnis, but James Walter was also charged. And I think what happened was the timing was, we just found out the timing. He was sentenced to sexual exploitation of a child, 20 plus items.
Wow.
Video, 20 plus items. He pled guilty. The condition was a basis for aggravated range sentence stipulated based on criminal history and number of videos, that he violated no contact with children under age.
Hmm.
He waived his right to reconsideration of his sentence. And his sentence was 90 days in jail and 5 years probation.
Unreal.
I'm sorry, I can't even
That's
believe. So then we go into what's going on with the sex offender registry in Colorado and around the country, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. Let me wrap up with the number of cases.
Mm-hmm.
So Brad McGinnis, we know of, only had that 1 trial. So
Mm-hmm.
we're up to 3. We're up to 3 cases. I got the wrong paper here.
It's just terrible that all this went on for so long.
Well, I'm calling this a 4th one. He's been brought back into court. Bradley McGinnis is back in jail for violating probation. We think. We're trying to get that. That's one of the things we do, the ongoing research. Then we have a trial for Isla Frost.
Mm-hmm.
Then she had to go back because she violated probation. So we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cases. Then we have the trial for Eliana Frost, who violated probation. So that's 7, 8. Then we have the DNN for Isla Frost. That's 9. The DNN for Richard Frost. That's 10.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely a DNN for Eliana Frost. That's 11. And now we have the appeal for Richard Frost. How much money has the state spent on a case that could have been completely avoided if they had given him his visitation?
Mm-hmm. Oh. The
It makes me sick.
taxpayers need to know this, Debbie.
It what?
The taxpayers need to know this.
That's what I'm trying to tell them. That's what I'm trying to tell them.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you but quickly about the shelter hearing that we found out about because we got all the transcripts. The shelter hearing, Lance Malley had just met Richard there. Richard's like, he's in jail. Oh, they bring him to the courthouse in orange suit, arms chained behind his back. He has nothing to write with. He's never been in jail before. He misses his kids.
Mm.
He knows he made 15 calls to the police about the danger in Isla's house over the course of the 2 years where Sharon Doby and Isla Frost and H, the oldest biological daughter, were trying to get the boys because they know once they got them in the divorce custody situation, once they got them into Isla's home, they were never going to bring them back to dad.
Hmm.
Because in a divorce, you know what the police say, right? When Richard went to Isla's home, James Walter accosted him with a gun. We don't know, or at that time, that was 2020. Nobody knew anything about the cases. There were no criminal cases. But so at the shelter hearing, Lance Malley, who had just met Richard, he testified to the court that Richard did not want visitation. He was going to hold them in abeyance. Richard didn't even know what that meant.
Mm.
They also told Richard that he needed to show up on August 11th. So July 6th, he needed to show up on August 11th. He had his attorney there. He didn't have a pen and paper. He didn't understand what was happening. He was devastated to be in the courtroom in this condition. And he didn't show up, and that's one that we can't blame Lance Malley for. Lance didn't tell him, I'm your attorney, we're having your first hearing, make sure you're there. Well,
Mhm.
that we can blame him for that. But he actively kept Richard out of every single other hearing, including the emergency hearing, where they renegotiated, they redefined the petition. They amended the petition. Richard never signed a petition, never agreed to a petition, was never properly notified of a petition. That he understood.
Mhm.
And then, so at that shelter hearing, make sure, this is advice to parents, make sure you get somebody to go with you who understands what the word abeyance means,
Mhm.
who understands something about what's happening, and do not rely on your ORPC attorney because
Mhm.
this attorney sold those children down the river. A traitor.
Mhm.
He's a traitor. He misrepresented that he was helping.
Oh.
And he built up and you know what, he never even this is Richard's problem. Like he didn't use the email, so
Mhm.
everything that happened, he didn't understand that you have to get everything in writing or else you don't have evidence. But we did come up with enough evidence for an appeal that is dynamite. So anyway, at the shelter
Wow.
hearing, he got screwed. He never attended. He was told by Lance Malley on 2 different occasions, I don't think you should come. You are
Oh.
not going to be able to contain yourself. You should not be around. James Walter is going to be there.
Mm.
So in another occasion, he had him sign the LAN agreement. On January 4th of 2023, there were a lot of things they were doing. The LAN agreement, LAN privilege. They moved his visitation from supervised to therapeutic because now the kids don't want to see their dad. And he never had a chance to see them. And nobody believes a word that they're saying. But now we think that the kids, they've moved on. So where the children are now is that their adoptions are held in abeyance pending the outcome of the appeal.
Oh, geez.
And the appeal is so well written. So I'm giving a shout out to John Poor. He even included the newspaper article that was written. So we got my nonprofit consideration.
Mhm.
We got Chris Osher to write 2 articles about this case. And the second one, after James Walter was convicted, he said that people are calling for transparency with DHS. And people are, who are the people? Me,
Yeah.
my board members, and you,
Hmm.
right? So I do want to move on from Richard's case. Oh, the other one is just what happened in the adjudication. Um, Lance Malley kept telling Richard that he didn't have to sign anything. He advised him to go to jury trial for about 4 months, 5 months. And then he changed his tune and said, I talked to some of my DA friends and they say a jury trial is, you could get crucified, Richard, because anything you say in there could be used against you in the family court. And, I mean, Richard's son had bad teeth. Like,
No.
whoa, that's pretty bad.
Hmm.
That's pretty bad. So, um, nothing, no mention was made that pretrial conference was held. Richard wasn't there. The adjudication was held. It lasted.
What lack of reasonable effort is.
Okay. So, um, when when a parent or both parents first go into a DNN, dependency and neglect case, usually there's some allegation that they're that they're hinging the whole thing on. Somebody's made a phone call, or you gotten yourself in trouble with the driving under the influence, and you got the kid in the car.
Mm.
Um, so they're going to, from that moment on, their goal is to take your child away from you into adoption, place your child into an adoption.
Mhm.
Their goal is not really to reunify you. They don't make money. So the way they do it is they bring you into courtrooms that you may or may not understand what's happening. They'll give you state appointed attorneys, the ORPC attorney, Office of Respondent Parent Counsel, and the public defender. And they will allow these people to communicate with each other. They're working together. They are crossing over from civil to criminal, trying to take evidence that they can use in the civil case against you. And then they'll put you into series of requirements, drug testing requirements, the mental health requirements, counseling requirements. If you have probation, you're in the criminal court, you got all of that going on as well.
Mhm.
And they will put up hurdles to every single thing.
Mm.
They will let the most recent thing that's just happened in the case I'm working with, there's two things. So this mom that I'm working with, her name is Jessica, and she has a deferred adjudication. Um, Apparently she slapped her son who was swearing at her, and she scratched him. And
Mm.
that's what caused the case to open. But that case didn't open for 8 more months. Like, that happened in July last year, and her case opened up in February.
Ah.
So they're creating this. Well, she's also just gone through a divorce, and she got a really nice settlement in the divorce. And so the dad's not happy. So the dad is out to get the kids so he can undo the alimony payment by getting real juicy child support,
Mhm.
right? So
Mm.
the court, CPS is working with the dad. But the mom has multiple sclerosis. She was on pain meds and she was on muscle relaxants, and they made her go off of everything.
Ah.
So they've interfered because of her drug testing. They want her to have no medication. She tested clean for 8 months, and she only was supposed to have two more randoms in end of September. Um, they brought her to court, and they changed her from UAs to mouth swabs. And the mouth swabs came back positive for cocaine with a score of 7.2 on September 23rd and 7.1 on September 24th. So she tested 2 days in a row. And then they submitted to the court that she wasn't going to her creative treatment options program, which is a drug rehab.
Mhm.
So she was supposed to go into drug rehab back, and they did the deferred adjudication, and they're still trying to get it. We're trying to figure out who owns the drug rehab center, the CTO, who owns that. We have also had proven in Colorado, in Adams County, that a judge owned the testing lab.
Ah.
Yeah, that's been proven. So all of these things, when you get into these cases, you need to use the strongest upper hand you can and get people who know what's going on. Get on the internet and find somebody you can trust or somebody in your family that has been through this. So what the court did in their revocation motion to revoke the deferred adjudication. I know it sounds like we're talking another language, so try to talk slowly. And I try to explain it every time over and over.
Hmm.
A deferred adjudication means you go straight to a treatment plan and you don't have to sign a no-fault divorce, a no-fault admission. You don't have to sign the admission. They're not going to try you. You don't have you in an adjudication, you might get a jury trial if you want one, but if you sign for a deferred adjudication, you're waiving your right to a jury trial and you're getting just the treatment plan. As long as you don't mess up, you get your kids back. Well, what they did is 2 weeks before her last two random UAs, they switched to mouth swabs, but they reported to the judge they committed fraud upon the court that they were UAs. So her results are the same as a pH test in her mouth. Your pH in your mouth is 7.1 or 7.2,
Hmm.
and they're reporting that as cocaine. And then they're saying that she has not complied with with meeting with CTO. And she's got all these excuses because there's all of these stumbling blocks in the way, and she's got her health issues, and she's doing a whole lot. She's doing her visits, she's doing the mental health eval, she's doing her therapy. Um, what else? She's speaking to her attorney. She's communicating with the caseworker. So what she did is she revoked all her or release of in confidentiality. She revoked them all. She's not letting the caseworker see them anymore.
Hmm.
So the caseworker doesn't know what to do with herself, and she's furious. And I mean, so my advice is comply to the best of your ability. You know, if you're using drugs, you've got to get some help. That you're putting your children at risk. And when I talk to parents, I say, where are you getting the drugs? When
Hmm.
are you getting the drugs? Are the children around when you're getting the drugs? Are you spending your children's money that could better be spent on doing drugs? Are you are you making some poor decisions, or are you sleepy, or what is the effect of the drugs on you? You don't just automatically have a right to do drugs. There's a reason that, that drugs were criminal. Now they're being decriminalized left and right all over the place. But that's not a wise choice for a parent. If you continue to use and continue to defy the fact that you shouldn't be using drugs, um, you're probably going to lose your kids because that's the way it's structured. They
Hmm.
have to have some inroad into defaming you, and that's what they are using. And if that's the only thing against you, they can make it sound like, you're really bad, and
Hmm.
the judge gets to make the decision. There's no jury trial at termination. There's only jury trials in CPS court. And so on that note, do you have other advice for parents along the lines of how to,
Well,
challenge the drug testing? Make
hmm.
sure that you demand the original report with the name of the facility, the name of the person, the technician,
Hmm.
any anomalies such as there was no female to watch you make your donation,
Hmm.
your contribution to this case, um, because that happens, and they write them down as missed tests.
Interesting.
So get those records. Get the record for everything that's in your system, not just the things they're looking for. For example, if you are on a prescribed medication, it needs to show up regularly because you're taking it regularly. And if it's not showing up regularly, what's the matter with their process?
Hmm.
So that would be another learning from the latest case. So you have the right to attend your hearings. You must go to your hearings.
Right.
If you have a lawyer who once doesn't tell you about a hearing,
Hmm.
you go marching into that courtroom and you tell the judge that your lawyer didn't tell you about the hearing, you are relying on that lawyer, and you want to have better you want the case dismissed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just try and get your case dismissed over and over. Um, if you can't afford a private attorney, and who can afford a private
Mm.
attorney, right? If you can't afford a private attorney, um, you're going to have a different ORPC, but at least let the new ORPC, you better let me know when my hearings are. I want to see all the motions you file. Oh, get your register of actions, folks. Those are free. You can get them the very day that you go to the courthouse. That shows all of the actions that have been taken in your case. And the last most important one, if you have a CPS case, get the trails reports. Those are the internal emails among the different parties in your case. They
Mm.
include your lawyer talking to your caseworker, if you've signed the release, talking to your therapist. All of the things that are going on in your case are reported in the trails records. You have a right to them. You need to get them through your ORPC attorney. They will be free and they will be unredacted. If you have to get them on your own, they will redact up until the pages are black. So if you need to get a lawyer to subpoena those records, you want the trails records. So moving on from that, I have one final bit of information about what I've learned about the sex offender registry because it's tied to these cases. In Colorado, in July, we had, I think it was July, I forgot what month, we had a man try to steal an 11-year-old girl off the playground.
Oh.
And come to find out, he was taken into custody and processed. And then, based on a law that Colorado passed last year, he was released because he's incapacitated and cannot stand trial. So we're releasing sex offenders onto the streets. There is more money under SORNA, the Sex Offender Registry and Reporting and Notification Act. Under SORNA, the states do not make money if the sex offender is in jail. They only get the funds if the sex offenders are on the streets.
That's
And
terrible.
how does that tie into it all? Okay. Because of what's going on in the memorandum of procedures that gives people back to a parent with a history of sexual abuse, as long as the perpetrator is not in denial. As long as the perpetrator is, if the perpetrator is in denial, they do not get their children back. If they admit to it, that has a lot of really ugly permutations. And when I talk to dads, I tell them, if you're being accused of sexual allegations, you might be better off in court saying I admit to it because you will get your kids back.
Mm.
And they start to cry.
Oh.
These grown men crying. They tell me my ex is living with a sex offender. I go, yeah. Yeah, there's so many sex offenders out there right now because of the policy of returning children to sex offenders for generations now. And I am furious about what happened. I'm on a task force for one person running for governor in Colorado, and he wanted people to come up with ideas for laws. Nobody wants to make a law to undo the statement in the memorandum of procedures. The memorandum of procedures was commissioned by the Colorado Supreme Court in 2003, and they included those two lines in there that if a family has a history of similar issues with CPS, that is a risk for reunification and they won't get their kids back. And if a parent has a history of sexual abuse and is in denial, they won't get their kids back. I want the law to change that they cannot remove people's children just because, or fail to reunify people's children just because they have been foster care kids themselves. And I also want the law to be written that a person who has committed sexual assault of their own child must undergo treatment and supervision for at least 5 years before they will be returned to that parent's custody.
Mm-hmm.
They won't do it. They're telling me that they don't, it's not good for this cycle. Oh, so we're going to let another year go by?
so they can make more money.
Yeah, like I thought this guy was gonna.
Well, the taxpayer needs to know these things.
I know,
Mm.
I know. And usually you ask such wonderful questions, and I just go on and on.
No, I thought this was really good to know because I was wondering what had happened with, the Frost case and, this new one here. And really, people have no idea about these registry lists. People have no idea.
Well, I tell people all the time, have you Googled the sex offenders in your neighborhood? All you have to do is open up sex offenders in my neighborhood and give your address. That's all you have to do. So that part, and those are the ones that are continuing to register. So
Oh,
Penelope was on your show
hmm
with me one time, and she is like the guru of fighting sex offenders who fail to register. And the deputies, the counties, or the police are supposed to arrest them if they find out that they haven't registered, because it goes into their history when it comes time for them to get off the sex offender registry. Timely re-registration is a factor, but these people are not they're not registering, and the cops aren't arresting them,
hmm
especially in the county. um I have no problem naming the county
hmm
that we know of for sure is El Paso County, the county that did this to Richard Frost's children and to him, and the DA refused to designate Mr. Frost as a victim. He could get some help. He needs help. He needs transportation help. He could get free bus rides. I mean, something to at least acknowledge, but they won't call him a victim because that would trigger the victim funding. And they don't want to give it to the real victim in this case. He's every bit as much a victim as his children are.
hmm
So with that, I really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this forward. Yeah, people need to know. And I think you're a wealth of knowledge. And you're going to be in my following book, Raised by These Wolves, Volume 3.
Right.
So,
That book is about the efforts being made to help families.
families and juvenile courts, how the juvenile and family courts are failing generations.
Wow. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
It's a lot of work to get these books done.
Oh, man. Yeah,
I'm
this one
I'm
was
gonna
a
have to
task.
order some. I'm gonna
And
hand them out. I'm gonna hand them to the legislators. I'm gonna go in there with 100 of them and hand them to the legislators.
right, they need to know what parents are going through and then what the kids are going through. I mean, the kids are suffering, but the parents also are suffering.
We have 64 legislators in Colorado going to meetings with caseworkers and doing things. I mean, all of that in addition to, I still work. Um, one of the things I'll just tell you real quickly. One of the things that the caseworker devised, I don't know if it was her or not. It could just be really bad timing.
Mhm.
But when we met with the caseworker last Thursday, I said to her, "Is there anything Jessica's doing right?" And she goes, "Visitations, kind of."
Ah,
And about those FEM meetings, she had nothing else to say about anything she was doing right. Well, when Jessica went to her visitation the next time, which was Tuesday, they handed her a release of liability for them to transport her children. So if they get in the car together, Jessica drives her car, and the kids go with the transporter, the supervised visitation person. But all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky now, they're gonna make Jessica release this business. This is a business.
mhm,
And I'm not going to say the name of the business because I'm still hoping that they're going to come through.
mhm.
Or she couldn't see her kids Saturday. Well, I wrote I transport children in my job. For Community Connector for federal dollars under Children's Extension Services.
Hmm.
Community Connector. All I needed to do and all my business made me do was to make sure I have the right coverage on my automobile insurance.
Right.
So why are you making the mother sign a release of liability? And
Yeah.
they let her have her visits this week and they're trying to figure it out. But I got a response from the by doing that's another way to help parents, right?
Mm.
Parents help themselves. Go straight to the business and make them show you their terms of insurance.
That's very important.
Yeah, like
Oh,
not only do you show up at Family Tree for supervised visitation, you find out who the biggest contributors are. Because if it's
yeah.
the judges sit on the boards, the legislators sit on the boards
Hmm.
of nonprofits like Family Tree. Do your research, dig deep. That judges own the prisons. In Colorado, judges own prisons.
Oh.
Do your research because once, I don't know if we're going to win or not, but at least the heat of the battle has dropped a little bit.
Hmm.
So
So, what is your email?
my email is Carol, Carroll, Debbie, Debbie 73 at yahoo.com. And our nonprofit, if the domain bill got paid, consideration, another N for nonprofit, and so it's a big long thing, consideration nonprofit.org. And you'll be able to make an application if you're looking for help. And please be patient, keep doing it, and also follow up with my email and say, why aren't you answering me? I'm
Right.
just, I'm not as good as Mary Ann on getting
No,
things done.
I think you're doing good. It's just hard when you have a lot of these cases that are so in depth and you're juggling them.
And I still work. I'm turning 70 in a month.
Yeah, you don't look it.
I feel it some days, but I feel really good when I do. All I know is that in order for me to get good sleep, I have to help fight against what the courts are doing to the people.
And
I'm an advocate for the people.
I totally appreciate you. But hey,
Thank
don't
you.
jump off, okay?
I won't. Thank you so much, Marianne. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you more.
Well, I
Slam the
love you more.
I love you more. Slam the Gavels, a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you so much, Debbie Carroll, for informing us of all of this. Thank you.
You're welcome.